before we get into today's show, everybody, huge news. We have huge news. This news is going to make you want to wet yourself. 2,000 of you joined us at the London Palladium in September for Football Ramble Time Tunnel. So guess what? We thought to ourselves, we've got to go nationwide, baby. That's right, the Football Ramble is going on tour across the UK this May. It's happening this year. There's no major tournament this summer. If you count the Club World Cup, then you're an idiot.
We're the major tournament!
We are replacing the major tournament.
Pete's Time Tunnel's back.
Yeah!
Let's all get right up it.
We're going to pull the cheeks of the time tunnel apart and you're going to climb all inside it. All around the UK, baby! Wow!
Do you remember producer Roy before this said, please just make sure the read's really clear?
Succinct and clear. One thought per link. He's radio through and through, that lad.
It was, and it is. But as Pete has just described there, it is a journey through football history like no other, where we look back at the most hilarious and downright outrageous football moments from the last 18 years of the Football Ramble, ever since we've been going. We'll have audience interaction, sketches from the mind of that guy, Pete Aloysius Donaldson, and some spicy chat that would never make it on this pod. We're not going to suddenly become awful people, but you can just,
we might nudge in that direction.
You can get away with a little bit more when it's on stage.
It's Football Ramble nights, isn't it?
And the more north you go,
the more blue it gets. If you're a dad, come down.
So we should tell you where we're going to go. We are heading to New Century Hall in Manchester on Friday, the 9th of May. What a Friday.
Fantastic
what a Friday. Manchester.
Imagine that weekend being opened in Manchester.
Oi, Madchester. Hey, as it's never
Someone
been called.
should call it that.
So New Century Hall in Manchester on Friday, 9th of May. Then, of course, we had to go to Newcastle, didn't we? The Tyne Theatre and Opera House in Newcastle on Saturday night, 10th of May. What a Saturday it'll be. Then we're going even further north to Glasgow, Oranmore, on Monday, 12th of May. What a way to start the week, everybody. And then we start to come south after that. XOYO in Birmingham on Thursday, 15th of May. And Thursday will be the new Friday. I can promise you that, Birmingham. And then we finish up at the mighty O2 Shepherd's Bush Empire in London on Saturday, 17th of May. So there you are. Here's some more gubbins for you, which is crucial. Tickets will go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. But you can get access to those tickets a full 48 hours earlier by signing up to our Patreon for just $5 a month. Sign up at patreon.com/Football Ramble and you'll be able to access tickets from this Wednesday, 29th of January at 10 a.m. That's patreon.com/Football Ramble to make sure you didn't miss out. So there we are. We're going back on the road. We're bloody excited. Head to our socials to see the list of dates, or just rewind it and you can hear and get your tickets. Do not miss out. Because these sorts of things are like Halley's Comets.
Kind of.
Comets?
Yeah, comets singular. Famously singular, yeah.
Did it not shatter into a few?
No, sadly not yet. But what's really important to note about this is that a lot of these venues are a lot smaller than the Palladium. So if you do want to guarantee yourself tickets, you do really need to sign up to the Patreon to get in there early. I'm sure there'll be some available for the Friday, but from Wednesday is the key time. So patreon.com/Football Ramble to sign up to that. Get yourself access to tickets 48 hours early, and you can relax knowing that you've got
exactly.
Small price to pay, $5, so now you've got relaxation for the next 48 hours.
Indeed. Yeah. And the dynamic pricing on offer here.
No, don't say that. It's not dynamic pricing. What I'm looking forward to most is all the people that are going to message me on Instagram saying, I can't believe you're not playing X City.
Right, okay,
I can't believe you're not playing.
But we are playing XOYO.
We are, which counts as all of them.
They are.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
The one in Manchester is in an area that they are trying to get off the ground, Manchester, as North Manchester. It's not happening in Manchester. Stop saying it.
We'll tip my top of the edge. That'll be a tipping point.
Put in the no in Noma.
Yeah. Donaldson coming up there on a Friday. What night is it? Friday night and pissing himself. We'll definitely put it up.
I love it how they're going, what can we call it? No man. No, that doesn't work. No man. No, that doesn't work. No. Okay, Noma.
Yeah.
Just call it Nom.
Yeah. Mercury Ever playing later in the year, so I'll leave him a message. Leave him a little card.
Leave him a little treat.
Hello, the Get Up Kids. Are you enjoying your gig? I enjoyed doing a gig, and we were better, so have a bit of that.
Well,
that's the kind of gear we're going to get off.
Yeah. That's how punchy Pete gets at these live shows.
I'm going to go emo Wonder Kids, the Get Up Kids.
Were you in your pants at the Palladium?
He can't answer that. He can't answer that legally.
Yeah.
You have
I'm
to
always
turn
in
up
my
to find
pants.
Yeah, true. Actually,
Got things over the top there, I suppose.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not what you meant, though, is it?
Marcus,
Speaking of the Emperor's New Clothes,
You've just got to peel back the layers.
I'll do it for you. Speaking of pants being pulled down,
Tottenham Hotspur 1, Leicester City 2. I thought...
I said it on Friday, and you wouldn't listen. I said they lost at home to Ipswich. Of course, I can lose at home to Leicester.
Look,
And
we all listened.
And you said that Leicester are really bad, though. They're really bad.
I mean, those 7 defeats and the spin would suggest they are.
Put it behind them now, don't they?
Well, they have.
Put it right behind them now.
They use their Spurs voucher.
Like they're voucher territory.
I mean, Tottenham
It's a
Hotspur
QR
fans-
code at that futuristic stadium nowadays. Isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it would be,
It's a QR code.
It really is, and I mean, they must have thought, okay, come on, we'll get at least a point, and then Jamie Vardy, there he is pointing, one more Premier League title, them not. It's just like,
Does
how
it?
bad
Is there
how
any
bad does
fear
it get?
going behind against Spurs at that stadium?
No, I don't
There
think
just
there is.
isn't. So we'll get a couple back.
Doesn't bother us.
Do the fans at least enjoy the stadium when they're there, though? I'm just asking on behalf
I
of
enjoyed
Daniel Levy.
You've enjoyed it many times.
It's a great place to go. It's horrible to get to.
It is horrible to get. You've got to be careful, though. I mean, you're sticking the boot into Spurs, although, to be fair, there's no other way to treat this. But you often go. Sometimes
Yeah.
you might be hounded out there.
I don't care. No one knows who I am. No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'll never get any stick from
Oh, well, I've been flyering in the area, so they will start to know
They're
who
so
you are.
browbeaten. They can barely lift
They've
their
got
heads.
more on, haven't they?
exactly.
Way more on. I think as well, like 1-0 up at home. You're thinking surely they're going to put that to bed.
Jim, I'll be absolutely honest with you. When I looked at the live score app and I saw that they were 1-0 ahead, my heart sank. It absolutely sank. I thought, that's boring.
But
That's
what were you
boring.
worrying about?
Oh, was nothing to worry about, was there?
No.
There's a lot been said about football leaving Son Heung-min, but in the first half he could have had about 3. He looked really up
They had a
for
lot
the
of
cup,
chances.
didn't he? He
and
had a
their
lot of
keeper-
chances.
The keeper kept him in it, didn't he?
It's fascinating watching all of this play out, isn't it? I mean, Postecoglou's been said after the game that the players are giving all that they can, etc. And I understand he has to protect them, but like if you look at the second guy in particular, Porro and Bentancur were really, really weak on it. The first goal was really sloppy as well.
Nobody interested
does that stand up.
Just closing the gap on the second.
Just let
It
him
bounced
shoot.
twice
Let him
before it got into the net, I think. I mean, it's just poor stuff. Isn't it?
It is really, really poor stuff. It's mountains of terrible stuff.
It is, and
is.
I mean, all this sort of chat about injuries, I understand.
It's about more
but
than that.
It's way more than that, and
They haven't gone more than 2 games without defeat all season.
I mean, it's
Also,
shocking.
Jim, what I did yesterday in preparation for today's show is if I could find any headlines around a similar kind of thing happening under Postecoglou at Celtic, and you can, like in 2021, there's a lot of Daily Record articles talking about how many hamstring injuries the players have got and how key players are going to miss this final and that game and all the rest of it. And Postecoglou kind of not really making any apology for it, just saying, no, we train intensively, this is how we are. And the same thing's happening here.
But it usually happens in the first 6 months of his time at clubs where the new training methods kick in, and it's like, oh bloody hell, this is quite full on. And
Yeah, but I
there's
think
some sort of adaptation where it's still going on
because the intensity of the Premier League's higher, and in that
and
game,
they're in
Well,
Europe
indeed,
as well.
and I think that his lack of or refusal to change anything really at Celtic, you're always going to have more than half a chance of winning the league.
Totally, you're better than everyone else,
Yeah, exactly.
basically,
You can have a number of injuries and you're still going to be fine. But he's to say he's getting a bit crotchety is an understatement. He is extremely prickly with the media. I understand, though. I feel sorry for any manager who's going through that. Spotlight's on you, everyone's hammering you. But actually, the fans, yes, there are the boos, and we've had that for a while. But Levy is really the man that they're targeting at the
and
moment.
rightly so. And rightly so.
But I mean, look, Spurs, it was their 13th Premier League defeat of the season. Only Southampton, Wolves and Leicester have lost more Premier League games, of course. And all the chat of injuries and trying hard, blah, 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 blah. Spurs are 15th.
Who wants to talk? Who wants to talk? Who wants to say the R word?
Well, I was leading up...
I don't mean Richarlison.
Europa.
Yeah.
I was leading up to that because they're a point above Everton, and we think Everton are going to carry on a very good victory.
Everton have got a game in hand as well. I know it's
Yeah,
against
they do
Liverpool,
have a
but they
game in
have.
hand.
Well, that's their
Leicester
direct
next.
competitor now, isn't it, Everton? That's
Yeah.
which is
Now,
it's pretty galling. Isn't it?
with Spurs, I don't think they're going to get relegated for crying out
It's
loud.
not relegation form, it's relegation battle form, isn't it, really?
I know what you mean.
Totally.
Well, indeed. So they're at 8 points. I mean,
That's
that
like
means
100 points now.
Well, it is that's suggesting that Wolves can get 8 points and Spurs don't get any. But the thing is, it's not ridiculous for Spurs to now just glance over their shoulder. And when does a glance become a stare, Peter? I know you've been educated on this.
That was delicious, but I hate you for it. I mean, they're running like. I mean,
I think they've
Brentford. Who else have got? I mean,
Pete, they've only got about if you take to one side the Europa League and the League Cup semi-finals second leg, which is obviously coming up. They haven't actually got that many easy league games left. They've got about 3 straightforward league games left.
Ipswich are in there.
But they're away to Ipswich.
Are they away?
And Ipswich beat them at home.
Yeah.
Right? They've got Palace at home. They've got a Wolves game in there. And they've got Southampton at home. And that's pretty much it. Like, I mean, you talk about... they're at home to Bournemouth at the end of next month. I mean, look how good Bournemouth are.
Yeah, you get the sense that the messaging from Levy was Europa League is the challenge. Europa League is the watermark. Do what you want, but don't embarrass us in the league. You're embarrassing us in the league. That's the problem. And they've been dragged in by concentrating on one target or a cup win.
But I don't think you can say they've been. Yeah. How does one concentrate on the Europa League when you haven't got a Europa? They've had about 10 or 11 games in between Europa League games across Christmas.
Yeah.
Like that's not the Europa League is a tournament that in the middle of December now you put it on the shelf and you say, "Well, see you later."
The Europa form is like win, draw, win. I think
because the teams are playing against fucking shit for the most part. Isn't it? I mean,
but they are. Yeah, I mean, Hoffenheim have a disastrous season. I mean, fair enough, they beat them, but
home to Elfsborg next.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, this is it. Like
they live in the forest.
They do.
That sounds like they do.
Yeah, but it is odd. I think that it's the different things that you hear from Spurs. I mean, Anne said that Pape Matar should not have played. He was obviously not fit, but he wanted to help. But it's like, well, could you start someone else then? And people say, but they've only got to... I get the fact that they are down to the bare bones and so on, but there are still players in there. There are still experienced players among some of the teenagers and whatnot. But you can forgive so much. You can forgive and understand and appreciate so much. But I don't think that Postecoglou is the right bloke at the moment, and who knows when he gets injuries back. But I've said,
there's been talk that Van der Ven and Romero might be back for next weekend.
And of course that'll give them a lift. Of course it will. But as I say, I think they'll part ways in the summer. The only thing that could really save Ange is if he wins a trophy, which he says he always does in his second season. And my goodness, it would be quite something if he was to pull that out the bag. But
I don't think
the
leg is ideal for Daniel Levy because it's just after the window shuts as well.
Well, indeed, but I don't think they even have a bag, Jim, to pull anything out of. And I understand the point about...
They've also signed players. I mean, they've spent a lot of money.
Well, indeed, I understand the point about Levy, and we could talk about that till the cows come home. But I think another manager, I think, could do a better job. Yeah. But I understand the point. It's pretty pointless if you sack him.
But the Irish,
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Absolutely, and that's kind of that. The buck stops with the highest paid chairman in the Premier League, and it's not even close, by the way, in terms of Levy. But I think one thing I would say about Levy is he's entitled, or the team above Ange Postecoglou are entitled to say Wilson Odebear, 19-year-old prospect, they bought for good money. Thigh injury. Yves Bissouma, thigh injury. Romero, thigh injury. Van der Ven, thigh injury. Timo Werner, thigh injury. Destiny Udogie, thigh injury. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Heavy balls.
Yeah. What are you playing with the fucking Flintstones, boy?
Is Ange giving them all dead legs?
Well, it just feels. And
hurdles.
You've got some other
There's
stuff.
Too much evidence.
You've got some other stuff in there which is unfortunate, like Solanke breaks down with a knee thing. Maddison picks up a knock, Mate Sarr picks up a knock, whatever. But ultimately, this is something that's dogged Ange Postecoglou's whole managerial career at a good level. And there needs to be answers. Because, as I said, I think on Friday, or if I didn't say it on Friday, I thought it on Friday, he talks about injuries like they're just bad luck bestowed upon them from the injury fairy. What can we do? Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You can adjust how you train.
Yeah.
Because all these players are breaking down.
Some of those happen, obviously, of course they do. It doesn't mean all of them are due to that, are they? And I think as well, the injury situation, obviously, they've got a makeshift defence at the moment, and Van der Ven and Romero are very, very, they make things very different for Spurs. But it's not like they've been kind of this kind of defensive colossus as a unit all season, is it?
No, it's been poor before that.
He still has an issue with setting up essentially a coherent defence.
Totally. And I think also you talk about, I think the Pape Sarr comment is actually really unhelpful. Because if I'm a Spurs fan, I'm thinking, okay, so you put Sarr in there, even though you know he's not fit, as a manager who was overseeing a huge injury situation. And you've already, I think from memory, brought Van der Ven back once when he wasn't fit and he broke down again. And now you're briefing behind the scenes that Van der Ven and Romero are going to be back, if not Thursday, they'll be back for the weekend. What, are they going to break down again?
Yeah.
Are you bringing them back early? And I'll tell you why you would think that he's going to bring him back early, because he's absolutely desperate. He needs. They can't lose another game at the weekend in the Premier League. You know, I think it's very difficult to imagine Postecoglou remaining in job after the first half, particularly against Everton, and after that turnaround against Leicester. But the reality is that there's not really any choice. I mean, you bring. I don't think anyone wants to take that job now. You've got 3 or 4 days till the end of the transfer window, whatever it is.
You, Rich, will do it.
Yeah,
I'll jump ship.
Yeah, I mean that's the level you're talking about.
No, but you're right.
You say because you said a second ago. I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily, but you did say another manager could do a better job. Who? Little Ryan Mason again.
You know, I can't even say Pep Guardiola.
To be fair, Leicester are the current Championship champions. You know, they're no mugs. Will that be of any comfort?
They're used to winning, yeah.
Yeah, and we should mention Leicester in this. I mean, their first win in 9 games, a much-needed win for Ruud van Nistelrooy. But I mean, just reading that out, Spurs fans are for crying out loud.
Yeah.
For crying out bloody loud.
They seem to be the team that other teams break their problems, their duck with.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Well, I think it becomes, you know, when you go through a run as bad as this, it's the first goal makes the second goal feel inevitable, right?
Yeah.
There's that sense of like just looming
And when
chaos.
Vardy starts that, Leicester fans are going, here we go. And Spurs fans are going, here we bloody go.
Yeah. Can I just point out as well, this chat about potential relegation for Spurs, right? I agree with you. Obviously, almost certainly not going to happen.
Too good to go down, aren't they?
Well, yeah, that's obviously been said before. But we have to understand, though, that in order to get to survival in the Premier League, you generally need about 35 points, right? Spurs need 9 more points to do that. And their most recent, I mean, their form record suggests it's going to take them quite a lot of games to get to that. And so the form they're in, and a lot of it's about momentum as you get towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
The form they're in is relegation form.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're relying. I mean, Southampton are dead and buried. You're relying on 2 of Everton, Leicester, Wolves, and Ipswich to do something. I think Everton probably will do something. So it does look fanciful. But if they stay, for example, and they only limp to 28 points, I mean, they will be relegated.
Yeah.
They absolutely will be relegated. So you have to understand that.
Yeah, I think the thing that goes for Spurs is the fact that Leicester have been really bad. And as I said about the other teams down there, they're wanting Wolves to implode. Well, we've seen what happened with Lamina. I know Cunha played against Arsenal. We'll talk about them, but Pereira, there has been tiny little signs of that.
Yeah, they're 5 without a win, though.
Yeah, indeed. Ipswich, of course, it was always going to be a struggle for them. And McKenna, the job he's done has been incredible. Everyone said that, rightly so. So that all goes in Spurs' favour. Like I said, I don't think they're going to get relegated. I find it extraordinary that Spurs are the 3rd highest scorers in the league. Yeah, and they're 15th.
Crazy.
So they have got goals in them, and whereas
that will see them through, won't it?
Yeah. Whereas the other side's not really. Yeah, like I say, I think there'll be the odd glance here and there, but I really can't see it going to that. But the fact that you have to mention that shows you, as Pete said, how embarrassing it's been.
Oh, it's been totally embarrassing. I think it's definitely much more realistic to suggest they could have their worst season in the Premier League era. The worst season at the moment, I think they finished 15th twice, way back in the 90s.
Yeah,
they could do worse than that. Which, given all the stuff that's come along, all the money that's been spent, the stadium, all the rest of it, managers that have been through that club, I mean, to be in that state is embarrassment enough.
Well, it is. What about Leicester, though, Jim? We said we were going to talk about them a minute ago, and we got sidetracked again by Spurs. But it's a fantastic win.
It really
for them.
is, and I really didn't see it coming either. I thought, like, even this Tottenham with all the problems they have, that Leicester would be the ideal tonic. But they were just smart, weren't they? They just picked off Tottenham's mistakes essentially, and Van Nistelrooy's been under a bit of pressure from the Leicester fans as well.
I mean, say chanting, you don't know what you're doing. It's quickly turned against him because of those defeats. And of course, Vardy scoring always gets them up for it. But
Vardy says he's confident they're going to stay up, which, as far as I'm concerned, just settles it. They will.
Well, at the moment, they're out the relegation zone.
It was a nice finish from El Canouse as well.
Yes.
Really beautiful goal. And I think what happened was this was a story of Leicester's goalkeeper making some good saves, Spurs not being ruthless enough, but Leicester sticking in there. And that's the problem when you are playing against a team like Spurs at the moment. Leicester's are probably going, look, as long as we're never out of this game. We're never out of this because they can't control anything. So as long as we stick at it and we stick in there and take our chances, and Vardy's always good for that kind of goal.
Well,
that type of goal he scored. He's never
It was a
going to
really
lose
clumsy
that.
goal, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But,
because
Kinski have done better on both goals.
I don't think he had his best game. I think he had probably his poorest game he's had since
He's been due one, to be fair. He's been excellent.
He's been good. He has been good, to be fair. Yeah.
Well, Leicester have got Everton next, which is a huge game.
Yeah, it's bad news for those who'd quite like to see Spurs relegated. But then on the other
Still
end, I
loads of
suppose,
games to go.
Hopefully, one of the teams gets 3 points.
Yeah.
Would you like to see Spurs get relegated then?
I've nothing in particular against Spurs specifically, but a big team being relegated is of interest.
We've not really seen a team of that size go down, have we? Like, it's more likely that a Leicester win the league than a team like that go down, almost, isn't it? So it
Feels like that, yeah.
Yeah, but
Newcastle have been relegated twice in the last.
I was going to say.
How dare you, Jim?
Pete sat over there. Aston
How
Villa
dare you?
have gone down. Leeds have gone down.
Yeah, maybe all right.
West Ham, but I take your point.
Beguiled by the free IPAs on offer.
It would be remarkable for one of the Super League teams to be relegated.
What a Super League.
Never forget, Jim.
Indeed. Also, I mean, one of the positive way to look at Everton Leicester playing each other is like, now Everton Leicester playing each other is exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And thank you.
I think from Leicester's point of view, you'd just be really disappointed to come off the back of that big FA Cup win and lose a couple of home games that you would have targeted to be able to at least get something out of. Because they lost at home fairly comprehensively to Palace and Fulham. Yeah. And if they'd picked up 4 points in those games, I mean, they'd be in much, much better shape. So. It's frustrating, I think, from Leicester point of view, because you go away to a place like Spurs and you win, and you're obviously very, very pleased to win. But you're like, for God's sake, we obviously can do it. Why haven't we done it in home games recently?
Yes. All right. Coming up after this, Gary Neville nearly cried for Manchester City.
How do you go about mixing your oil with your gummies?
So I have half a pipette in the morning as soon as I wake up, and half a pipette at night.
How about that? Mark Crossley there with fascinating insight into what he gets up to.
And the way he pronounces the word pipette.
Thanks
Pipette
to
real good.
Who's your favourite band?
Salt and Pipette.
The Pipette. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Pretty Visitor, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. Of course, you'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners and get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent, all for just $5 a month. You'll also get an extended version of every Wednesday Ramble. So to listen to that, head to patreon.com/Football Ramble and sign up now. And also, you'll get early access to those Ramble Live tickets this Wednesday.
When that party rolls into town. Hey, Pete?
Yeah.
When that party rolls into
A
town?
big steamroller that crushes everyone's... No, they've started incorrectly now.
But it plays disco music.
It plays disco
And when
music.
it rolls over you, it's actually the ground underneath really soft, so you just get pushed into the sponge
Yeah, it's
underneath.
quite lovely, quite
Feels nice.
life-affirming.
It feels like a lovely, lovely hug.
And some of it is Victoria sponge. So you can have a little
What a
nibble.
time.
Yeah, what a time.
Probably among the best of sponges, I would say.
I'd say so.
That's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Has to be.
How many
right
other
up.
sponges are there?
Boy, lemon drizzle's a sponge, isn't it?
It is it's a good one.
Is that not just a
sea
Victoria
sponges.
sponge in lemon citric clothing?
Madeira cake? Would that call it?
Yeah, I think it's a sponge. Yeah.
There you are.
Jamaican ginger cake, sauce.
All them ones in the sea?
Yeah.
There you are.
Jim already said that.
They're
Sea
not-
sponges.
they're not so good.
Sorry, they're not so good. Sorry.
Bob
Sorry, Jim.
Squarepants. Wolverhampton Wanderers 0.
I love it if he was just called Bob Squarepants.
Before you got turned into a sponge.
Yeah.
Wolverhampton Wanderers 0. Arsenal 1. Both sides ended the match with 10 men.
And rightly so.
Pat Nevin on the radio went full on Black Swan, losing his
did.
mind.
He
He
did.
really did.
Wiping lipstick off the mirror.
wasn't the
Insanity.
only one.
He was it. He was so angry.
A bar so low, the referee of the standard refereeing, that a limboing snake would struggle to get under it. Or something
Right,
like
yeah,
that, whatever
okay,
he
yeah.
said.
In the words of Tommy Saxondale, he could have crawled under the rug with a top hat on. It was so low.
Well, Alan Shearer said it was one of the worst decisions I've seen in a long time.
I thought old Elon one was going to get wind of it because I genuinely thought Arsenal fans were going to knock X over.
You thought the Musketeer was going to wade?
Well, I thought he would have probably looked at some of the data and gone, "What's happened?"
Well, Sir Keir Starmer is an Arsenal fan.
He is.
Yeah,
So
good point.
Can he not do anything about this?
Oh, here we go. Maybe Elon has secretly bought Pugmol, and this is what we're seeing now.
Yeah, could
Sowing
be.
chaos.
Yeah, well,
He
good.
couldn't get Liverpool, so he's bought the refs.
Indeed.
Explain to the listeners who may not have seen it what happened.
Well, Elon Musk thinks we're now a communist country, which of course we are.
Yeah.
No, of course, Miles Lewis Skelly was sent off for serious foul play. The attacker went past him. He made no attempt to play the ball. He went in high.
It was a shit professional foul, which I think should not be part of the game.
Yep,
and he got
I agree.
a decent red card for the thing that he did.
Are you defending the red card?
Massively
Oh, yeah.
defending it.
Yes,
it was late.
Peter, yes.
It was high.
Yes.
It was
Love this, Jim. Don't stand for
It
this.
was studs down the shin,
Right.
and the player was going at fucking 100 miles an hour. What were you expecting? I'm
Peter,
sorry.
My next question is there room for me in your bunker?
You think that as well?
I find the
Don't worry, Jim. I've got you back.
It was piss poor.
I'm glad it was a red card because as
Yeah.
Pete says, those types of tackles, I hate them.
You got a lead. You got a lead.
but they're
from-
not a red, are they?
But whether I'm glad or not is a different matter.
It was studs down the shin. Nowhere near the ball. It was lazy. It was high. It was late.
I can actually see why, for those kind of reasons, Pete, why it's given. I don't think it was a red card though, but I think the kind of public outcry and just the hand wringing has been a bit over the top because
Yeah, but
I think
I
that's what we live in.
hadn't seen the challenge, but I saw all the outrage and I watched it. And I was like, I mean, come on now.
I'd love it if you still hadn't seen it. That's what you're going to say. Go on, Jim.
That has been levelled at me before.
Jim, take some fucking names.
So
Yeah.
Michael Oliver has essentially at the moment he's deemed it to be high, late, and dangerous, as you said, and he's stuck to that view. PGMOL has stuck to that view.
Sounds like
The
a cool tag team, high, late, and dangerous.
The very interesting thing I think about this as well is obviously the João Gomez one, which was way worse. Is high, is dangerous,
Could have
is
been a
late,
straight red.
and was only a yellow.
That's
so
right.
there's massive inconsistency
Totally.
there. I just don't think it meets the threshold that Oliver has stuck to. And
I agree with
I'm
you.
really surprised that the VAR has thought the same.
I agree with you. I think the problem is that, and you're absolutely right supporting that João Gomez situation. Of course, the outcome was the same because obviously he was sent off anyway. And sometimes the referees can kind of use that as a little bit of an easy one, can't they?
The only thing in the referee's defence is though, if the referee's seen that and thought, okay, he's only seen it from one angle and thought, right. But you know that VAR can't upgrade that to a straight red, can they?
Yeah, sure.
No, fine, but I mean, he'll know that Gomez is already on a yellow.
Yeah.
So it solves a problem for him because he can just go. Look, if he's not quite sure, it's definitely at least a yellow. So I just give him a yellow. And the outcome
But
is the
in
same.
a game where the exact same tackle has been deemed a red.
So the Miles Lewis Skelly thing, I didn't think it was a red.
Well, not
I
the
thought
exact same tackle, but you know what I mean.
I think we're in a kind of uneasy situation in football with those types of challenges, and other people have talked about this in the past about how a yellow doesn't really seem to quite cut it because of the cynical nature you guys are talking about.
I mean, it's kicked the guy.
But a red seems
A
harsh.
red's too far, though. isn't
Yeah,
it?
but let me just make the point. Because I do think there's a situation sometimes when players who are trying to make those cynical stop the counter-attack fouls, which they know they're going to get a yellow for, sometimes players do go too hard on it and then get surprised when they get sent off.
Wayne Rooney had one.
Wayne Rooney is the best example of it. This, I don't think, was that. I just think that, again, it's another example of being that kind of really weird grey area, like the orange card area. But also, it shows the shortcomings of VAR, right? Because it's one of those ones where the VAR's not really going to overturn it.
But that's kind of the point of it being there, is to sort out situations like this.
It
right?
is. No, it is. But there are challenges that exist that don't quite meet the threshold, in their opinion, of overturning.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that's how they do
So I
it.
suppose my question for you, Jim, is do you understand that could be interpreted as serious foul play?
I don't think it meets that threshold. No, I think it's a trip. I don't think it's violent or endangers the player in any way. I just think it's a cynical trip.
I agree with Jim, I have to say.
Okay. I mean, but you saw where the boot ended up on the leg.
Yeah, but it's minimal. It's a glance on it.
It's a minimal glance trip.
I can't put it any clearer. I don't think it meets the threshold.
And
What are you worried about? Mark Knopfler popped up with a late one.
I mean, Jim, look, the vast majority of people are in your corner.
Yeah, sure.
So I understand. I get that view. Like I say, I ultimately come down the side of I don't think it was a red card. But I can
There's
see
nothing
why.
between a yellow
I'd
and a red.
absolutely rather. I don't think he needs to be making the challenge at all. And actually, if I'm going to be really harsh on it, I don't think Calafiori should let the corner happen in the first place. I'd rather he's not making that tackle at all because I don't think it's necessary there. But I don't,
Jim,
don't think it's a red.
It's a fair point.
As a sensible man, and you are a sensible man, do you think the outcry and the over-the-top reactions online from Arsenal fans, which we see quite a lot...
Not just Arsenal fans, we've quoted Nevin and Shearer there.
Yeah. Well, no, in that case, fine, but generally speaking, Arsenal fans do have this kind of tendency to scream conspiracy.
Yeah, massively.
Do you think that helps matters?
I don't think it makes I don't think it makes a difference at all. It shouldn't make a difference at all. I mean, a lot.
But why do you lead the charge on that?
Just stop revealing my sock puppet.
Because about 25 minutes after the full-time whistle, there was already ready to go a Michael Oliver compilation conspiracy video of all the decisions he's made against Arsenal.
Well, but Michael Oliver's has got. Like, he's sent off way more Arsenal players than anyone else. Yeah. So I think in a situation like this, you can flip the question, can't you? Like, does a decision like that help Michael Oliver's fucking, look when it comes down to that? Like,
one of them, Jim.
The Mateo Kovacic tackle on Declan Rice in the City game at the Emirates last season, Oliver didn't give a second yellow card, and he said it because he didn't want to ruin the game.
That's poor.
Howard Webb said that was wrong. So that speaks for itself as well. I'm not saying that Michael Oliver sits in his little bunker going, I secretly hate Arsenal.
But you have just planted that image in everyone's minds, Jim.
Exactly,
it speaks for itself, doesn't it? It's there.
Yeah,
it speaks for itself.
The story should be that Arsenal really came up against it here, got on the end of a really difficult decision in the first half. I know Gomez was sent off, but that was much later, and still managed to grind out a win.
Indeed.
Which keeps them in that
that is the story.
Position.
Yeah, on the highlights, there was a chance for another header. Like, boy, just stop giving him headers.
For Kai Havertz.
He had like three Kai Havertz.
The second one in particular.
And on the highlights, the commentator went with, it felt almost inevitable that Havertz was going to bury that header. I had to look up the Latin for inevitable. There's no application of the word inevitable that applies to Kai Havertz on a header. No. Good God.
But he used to be good in the area. I mean, I remember seeing him score quite a few headers at Leverkusen.
He's scored quite a few headers for Arsenal, and he got a fair number for Chelsea as well. I think he's just having a bit of a rough run of form in front of goal. He's actually already equaled his tally from last season, so he's having a
low on confidence,
strange old season where he's actually kind of doing quite well, but just missing some very, very visible sitters. It's a bit of a conundrum, but I think he just is that sort of player, isn't he? I think he's always going to be that sort of player.
Yeah, he's not.
He's a 9.5, and that's what you get from a 9.5.
Yeah. I'll tell you what would be really interesting is if because that rescheduled Everton-Liverpool game is in a couple of weeks, and it's at Goodison. And if Moyes can really tap into what he's been doing there, and because they had some famous results against Liverpool under Moyes, Everton did. If he can get a win over Liverpool to mean that it's 6 points, but not with a game in hand, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I think
cutting the gap seems impossible. It seems like even in 3 years' time, they're going to be 6 points ahead with a game in hand.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, and we spoke about it when obviously they score late against Brentford, and then Arsenal are pegged back against Villa. That will be, if Liverpool go on to win the league, that will be
pivotal
one where people look back on it on this season. However, if Arsenal are to catch Liverpool, which does seem unlikely, then this result, people will look
massive.
at this.
Yeah.
Calafiori,
they've got experience, haven't they, now? Going down to 10.
Yeah, well, Calafiori took his goal beautifully as well. Lovely finish.
Yeah.
And Arsenal needed that, and it's those types of games, or these types of games where you're down to 10, as you say, and they come away with the win. It shows a bit of character there, to say the least. I suppose one could maybe say they keep the pace with Liverpool. But as you say, Luke, I mean, 6 points if Moyes can do Arsenal a favour, but that is also a big ask. I feel we should move on, though, from talking about the title.
I hope he approaches it like that. Right, Arsenal need this, boys.
Everton players walking to the dressing room, just Arsenal kits laid out.
Yeah, just pictures of like Kevin Campbell and Franny Jeffers everywhere in Arsenal kits.
But also, Arsenal have got to go to Anfield quite near the end of the season, so that'd be fucking great if it's still going live.
Yeah. And don't forget Andres Limpar as well, Jim.
Yeah.
Manchester City 3. Chelsea 1. They're back, aren't they? They're back.
Revisit this debate from Friday.
Do you think now, Jim, that
I wonder why Jim was in a good mood despite that sending off.
Do you think Man City now are going to go and win it all?
So basically what's happened is you were wrong last week, but now you're presenting it as if you
Well, my point is that they can win this game, and they will win games here and there.
Pete, do you want a cup of tea?
Put it in your best bet, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, indeed. No, but my point is that don't be surprised, which I think I even said, if they beat Chelsea, don't be surprised because they've got quality players and they've got Guardiola's manager. But in terms of getting back to where they were and so on, to me,
defensively they looked as shaky as they have been. I think.
God, so
Kuzanov.
yeah,
dear.
I mean, footballers often look sort of ageless, don't they? Even if they're 20 or they're 35, they often look around about the same age. But after conceding that goal, Kuzanov looked like he was about 13.
And I'm just a huge supporter of the idea of an Uzbekistani player being in the Premier League.
Oh, I mean,
so I've got to support the lad.
Yeah.
But that was a Sunday league.
well, that would back in Tashkent, that would have been his face will have been on every
it's just
kind of pop.
interesting, isn't it? It's just interesting. Like,
you do love former Soviet countries.
it's nothing to do with that, Marcus. You can try.
You love Peter Odemwingie. He grew up there.
Loves the stands.
You can project onto it whatever you want.
I
mate.
will.
But the idea that an Uzbek is playing in the Premier League is interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting.
And the fact that he's gone at Man City, one of the most successful clubs in recent years, and he's playing. He's been in there for his debut. But the header was Sunday League level.
Gary Neville said he felt like crying for the lad.
He looks like
Last week, Gary Neville in his career.
he reminds me of Apollo from the UK Gladiators in that, like, he's got the body of a man, in Apollo's case, a big man, but the face of like a trainee policeman, like quite a young, very, very young face on a man's body.
To be fair to him as well, about 2 or 3 minutes after that goal, Chelsea had another break.
Mate.
And he blocked a shot from Jadon Sancho. And you're thinking at that point, it's like, if they score again after like 5 minutes, it's like game over straight away.
I think they should. That moment was pivotal. And the moment after that, when Palmer goes for the goal, was pivotal. If they had scored just one of those chances, it's 2-0 early on.
They really threatened us with a good time in that first 20 minutes or so, didn't they? It was end to end.
It would have been possibly a totally different story, because if you're talking about a team like Man City, who, as we said on Friday, have got more than enough about them to beat a load of other teams, they've got up against a Chelsea team who are really capable on their day, and you go down 2-0 really early on, it's a great watch for the neutral, because you're starting to think, well, have they got it in them to come back from this, or are they going to start to crumble?
Yeah,
which we've seen happen before.
Chelsea's form has been patchy before this, isn't it? Which is why I thought it was kind of fairly evenly matched going into it.
I just thought Palmer, he had overall quite a poor game anyway.
Nice chat with Pep after that.
He did, exactly, which people were raging about. But I just think when he was on goal with that opportunity, it's inexcusable. It's the first time
He put money down on him.
It's the first time I think I've ever seen him overthink anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean this in a horrible way. His simplicity as a man is a massive strength. And I think if he goes in against any other team, he just scores. Yeah. And that's that.
Or at least he plays the right pass, but you would fancy
Or he has
him
a
to take
shot
it.
at least.
Yeah.
Right now at Cobham, it's just turned 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. I can hear the creaking of 51 necks as ball over the top training begins. Just because there were some stinking chances for Manchester City over the top.
What's Sanchez doing for Haaland's goal?
I thought that was on. As a bad goalkeeper myself, I thought
You didn't even play a goal the weekend,
that,
did
but
you?
then I didn't play at the weekend. But
What were you, linesman?
I was linesman for half, and then left back for in a 3.
What was the score?
Back in a funny 3. We may have lost.
What was the score?
4-1.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
Not too bad.
Would it have been better if you were in goal?
Possibly not.
Do you know how disdainful Marcus is about your chances of playing football at the weekend? Not too bad. 4-1 at home, they've lost.
We're playing against 25-year-olds.
Yeah, he did. He explained why.
Against 25-year-olds or 25-year-olds?
There we go. But I thought it was on.
Training methods are better now. Those kids are really good.
Yeah.
He's defending Robert Sanchez.
I just think that it was on.
let's hear him out.
He got a bit caught up, and everyone's sort of saying that it was all about Sanchez. It was all about Haaland as well. It was a lovely finish.
All I'm saying
Biding
is
his time, finishing it beautifully.
Opta have officially listed it as an error. That's all I say. They have.
What do
Opta
they know
officially
about anything?
Called it an error.
It was an error. And I think Chelsea, we know they love to sign a goalkeeper. I think the board are going, oh, brilliant. We get to replace him. We get to sign another one. And nobody can argue. Nobody can say we're foolish. So poor old Sanchez,
Get Kepa back.
Well,
He's having a good time.
let him have a lovely time at Bournemouth.
Right on the beach. He's probably there right now.
I love it. Every time Bournemouth are mentioned, it's like, well, they're going to have to keep hold of their players. Kepa, come on. He's having a good season, but you mentioned people were angry with Cole Palmer for laughing and joking with Pep after the game. Gary Neville was one of those people.
Right.
And because, I mean...
You want people to be professional, but when they act like professionals, they were just doing a job, you go,
I think this is such nonsense. I mean,
The optics are bad though, Jim, aren't they?
Yeah, but you mentioned earlier that Cole Palmer doesn't overthink things, and I think this is just an expression of that. It's just an expression of how calm he is about things that ultimately are kind of outside noise and don't matter. Yeah. Does it matter that he's had a chat with Pep Guardiola? If it looks bad,
Jim.
Does the laughing ultimately mean anything? Does it matter? Does it mean he's any less committed to the Chelsea cause?
Pep could have told him a hilarious
I think it's completely meaningless. I think this is more Gary Neville would kind of pathologically applying standards to everything.
Right. If he wasn't thinking about which jokes he was going to tell Pep, would he put that chance away?
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to ask him, and he wouldn't understand the question.
Also, Gary Neville was getting ready for his next mini retirement. So
yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So you've got to give him a bit of slack.
Phil Foden scored his 5th goal in 4 games.
Yeah, he's flying again.
Quietly back to where he was.
This is what they need. If they're not going to be coherent as a team, this is exactly it. They still have some of the best players on the planet. They need those individual moments of quality, and Haaland produced one, obviously, with Sanchez.
I still think
Foden had a long way to go, and it was very, very well finished.
I mean, when we saw him in the Champions League, he was just absolutely. They just passed straight through him.
I was going to say, I was actually going to make the point similarly and say that I think he looked really rusty against PSG. I don't think he's been awful. I mean, he's scoring goals.
By his level, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah, but it's patchy. This is Man City's patchy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean, though, that if they are going to be patchy, if they are going to look incoherent and very vulnerable at the back, they need their big players to produce the big moments.
And that is actually what's kind of interesting about this, isn't it? That even in this game, they did look incoherent for lots of it. And it's quite a refreshing thing, even though they did go on to win the game. When they go 2-1 up, you don't think they've definitely won it. Whereas even last season, you're like, this is over as a spectacle and it's going to be quite boring as a neutral now.
Yeah. They're also playing a few more long balls.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, the terrifying thing about that is how well suited Haaland is to that game. Imagine
and De Bruyne.
They just go route one and just fly up the table.
I also have to say, I thought Foden was really, really important for City against Brentford as well. When I know they got pegged back and stuff, and it was a disappointing result for them in the end. But he was the one who got them up and running.
As I say, 5th goal in 4 games.
Yeah, Marmoush gives them something different as well. He had an okay debut, not an amazing one, but there's definitely signs there's more to come there. I think.
Carl Walker's not there anymore, of course. He's gone to AC Milan. He's been given David Beckham's number 32, or the 32 number. I don't think it's David Beckham's anymore.
No,
I don't think they retired it.
No, I think it should be his, and it shouldn't be washed. It'd probably still smell good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably would actually. Yeah.
Like
no, he sweats too much.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim?
Like the Batman cows. See, Robert Pattinson this week said that when playing Batman, you can still smell all the other actors who have played Batman in the suit.
Oh, which one would smell the best? Jack Nicholson.
George Clooney.
Kilmer. Surely Kilmer.
Jack Nicholson wasn't Batman.
No,
Clooney.
He was the bad guy.
Why does it smell of Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, Clooney.
Who let Jack Nicholson in his suit?
It's Clooney.
He had little nipples.
Clooney or Kilmer?
On his suit, didn't he?
He did have little
famously.
nipples.
Kilmer's good.
Bale would smell mental.
Yeah.
It's got to be G. Clooney.
Who am I thinking of? Did I mean Michael Keaton? Yeah, Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
I think George Clooney's head and shoulders there, isn't he?
Head and shoulders.
Probably smell of his Nespresso coffee machine, isn't it?
Old Nespresso.
All right, coming up after this, Bournemouth hammer Nottingham Forest. Welcome to the Bournemouth round on the Football Ramble. Another superb performance. They're a bit unlucky to be this low in the running order.
We should apologise.
With the talking points of Spurs and red cards and Wolves and so on. But Bournemouth, just absolutely irresistible. They put 5 past Nottingham Forest.
Marcus, there were easies from the crowd.
I know they were. They absolutely were. Not many score goals against Forest. I mean, it's very unlikely for them to be that bad at the back. Before the match, only Liverpool and Arsenal conceded few goals in the Premier League.
They've also got loads of injuries, which I've been led to believe means you just can't win.
No. Nuno out is my stance. But they're now unbeaten in their last 11 Premier League games, and they've scored 9 goals in the last 2 games against who were the very informed Newcastle United for the game, and obviously Forest, who have been doing brilliantly. Bournemouth don't give a damn. They don't respect anybody.
They arguably should have scored more. I mean, that's the thing about it. They had situations where they could have scored other goals.
So disappointing result in the end.
Fuming. Yeah. No, it was incredible.
Uatara could have had a haul. Is that what you're
it was an irresistible performance.
It was.
I mean, Nuno was interesting in his comments afterwards. He said, look, it's just a bad day. We started off poorly. We couldn't really get going. It was a bad day because they conceded in the first sort of 7 or 8 minutes.
I think it's also possibly a bad combination of styles from Forest's point of view if you are having an off day, because they do like to let the opposition have the ball, and Bournemouth absolutely thrive in possession like that.
Well, I think that's the wonderful thing about this Bournemouth side is they can hit teams on the break, as we saw against Newcastle when they were just soaking it up and they had the lead. They can take the game to anybody. We talk about Man City's lack of coherence. This is a very coherent side who are far greater than the sum of their parts.
I think coherently chaotic, though. I think like you've got a centre back who spends a lot of time in midfield, and that absolutely just overloads any sort of team who aren't that reactive. And if you're not up there with the intensity, they just overrun you. I think they're brilliant.
No, they are, and I think they've got a lot of strings to their bow, and they've got a lot of. They can adapt to a lot of situations, as you're saying there. Iraola, what he's doing here, it is stunning stuff. It really is. They've also got players who have got real quality. They've signed very, very well. I mean, look at Ouattara. He's not the starting striker. Evan Nielsen, who's had a good season, though he's been injured.
He's not even really a striker, is he? He's a wide player.
Yeah. Look at it. I mean, it's just...
But that was a proper striker's hat-trick,
Oh, my God. The first goal, the way he hangs in the air. What a header that is. Of course.
Because I think we spoke about him on a Reacts, you and I, Marcus, a little while ago, where he'd missed a couple of chances from wide that he might have done better with, but there was a sense he was perhaps about to join Cliver and Semenyo as being one of those productive players I could really rely on, and this is a really explosive way for that to have happened.
He's simply just not a goal scorer generally. I mean, he's not shown anything in his career so far that he consistently scores goals.
But when you get in the slipstream,
he was amazing.
But when you get in that slipstream, when everyone around you's buzzing with confidence, it's infectious.
Yeah. Absolutely right.
And that's exactly what he picked up on. And obviously Semenyo had to score, but Cliver,
I think he had a goal really harshly ruled out. Actually, was it Ouattara?
I think the referee. There was a lot of complaints. I know they absolutely hammered them, but the referee very much sort of made it clear that he wanted the game to flow. I think at times, and it should have.
It's because they wear a kit that's slightly similar to Arsenal.
It's a good point, actually.
The referee was like, well, we can't be having that.
Yeah.
No, but I alluded to it at the start of it. I said, they were unlucky not to score more goals. I think it was a bit... It's funny because you don't want to sound like you're not giving Bournemouth the credit they deserve, because clearly they were amazing, and Irresistible's right, and they've been brilliant. They're so well coached.
That's Zayn Silkot-Djoubery.
Yeah. Well, he came off the bench, didn't he?
That's Michael Djoubery.
Yeah. Is that his son?
Yes.
Yeah. And but I would say that there were key performances from Forest which were poor.
The centre halves were poor.
Ole Aina had a really poor game. Sells had actually played his worst game of the season as well.
Yeah.
He's been brilliant all season. He wasn't that good.
It just felt like they, having been superb this season, Forest, and putting in so many good performances, it was like, for whatever reason, it's just not happening today. We're just...
And their record against Bournemouth is really bad. Like, Bournemouth are a bit of a bogey team for them. And, this kind of stuff that can happen from time to time. And as ever with these kind of discussions, though, you're starting to think about whether... is that a coincidence, or just Bournemouth force them into that? And if Bournemouth take some of the credit for forcing them into some of these mistakes, given how good Forest have been, then Bournemouth deserve even more credit, because Forest are third in the table, and they're still third after losing.
Yeah.
If they'd won that game, they'd be on joint points with Arsenal. And we're talking about Arsenal before the break about being, staying in the title race. So the team they've beat is a really good team as well. So I think they deserve an immense amount of credit. They're one of the form teams in the Premier League. They've got Liverpool at home next, which is a fascinating game. I mean,
there you go, Arsenal fans.
If Bournemouth can play the game and not the occasion, and not the team, the club, if you like, then that could be a really interesting one.
It's interesting because Iraola was asked after the game if he might change their approach looking towards the Champions League qualification charge, and he said obviously that he wouldn't do that. And it's an interesting mindset, that, isn't it? Because some teams might find themselves in this situation and go, you know what, if we actually kind of shut up shop a bit, make ourselves hard to beat, and try and nick things, maybe we'll get more points and maybe we can sort of grind it over the line. But they're not going to do that, are they? There's no chance they're going to do that.
I think the in-game sort of tactics that he deploys, Iraola, when they say you're going to change your approach, they can do during the 90 minutes. So it's almost, you could almost argue it's a sort of redundant question, although I understand why it's being asked. If you look at the table now, I know Forest obviously just got thumped, and we said before that game only Arsenal and Liverpool had scored, had conceded fewer goals. Well, now it's Bournemouth who are third in the teams, the third best defence in the league. I know there's a few teams around there. It's slightly cherry picked because Newcastle and Forest have only conceded one more than them. But it shows you again that we talk about their attacking qualities, which is right to do so because you can see it all on show there. But actually at the back, Bournemouth are pretty good as well. So lovely balance to the side. If players are injured, they have those who can come in and do a job. But again, just the confidence, the feeling, the vibe and everything, it's absolutely glorious to see. And when Antoine Semenyo is celebrating by doing Booker T's spinneroonie,
it looked really good as well.
Good bit of work.
He pulled it off.
Like, Booker T probably hasn't been an active proposition in WWE for a long, long time, right?
I think he came back. He's a commentator now, but I think he came back for one match last year. He'd been wrestling for 10 years before Semenyo was born. It's not bad, is it?
It's not too shabby.
And that's a legacy.
It is a legacy.
A little bit of breakdancing.
And there you
I
are.
just think it shows the confidence down at the club because it's quite a high risk manoeuvre. He doesn't put it off.
It's a neck
he
injury.
knows the world's cameras are watching.
Yeah, I've never been to the Vitality, but there was a strange thing in the highlights where, after Bournemouth scored their third or fourth goal or whatever, it cut to all of their injured players who were stood behind glass in what looked like a Perspex box. Now, I assume it is a regular box and there are generally chairs in there. But it was like they were just being held in a sort of shipping container.
It's an oxygen chamber.
It was a touch Squid Gamey. A little bit. I thought, what's going to happen to them? How?
You think you're injured now?
But you're on the south coast by the sea, so it's with actual squids.
Yes.
There's actual squids in there.
Yes, indeed. Was Semenyo's celebration the best celebration of the weekend?
I don't think it was.
I might argue that it was Yoane Wissa who ran off
pre-celebration.
He did a pre-celebration.
It was a minority report of a celebration, wasn't it?
Great reference.
So, presumably he's done that to put the goalkeeper off, right? Because there's an angle from behind the goal where he just runs away in celebration, and your eye is so drawn to it. It must have affected the keeper in the same way.
It's a sort of celebration. So he's celebrating before the goal's kicked.
Misses the first penalty. It's retaken, and yes.
Yeah, so he
Business starts the celebration before Brian and Buemo's even done his run up,
which I think is brilliant.
But he's running towards the away fans,
and he's celebrating like no man ever celebrates.
It's like a 90s computer game.
Like, yes.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So Jim, are you
the very best?
Are you wicked whispering your way to thinking that it could be some kind of bad sportsmanship?
Could be a mind game.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's bad.
It'd be a yellow card, wouldn't it?
I'm saying it's creative.
Something for PGMOL to have a look at.
You can't.
Indeed,
For example, you can't stand behind the taker and start, get the old chap out, swinging it around, waving around.
And, you can't get the old chap out at any point.
Fine.
But again, another thing PGMOL are denying us.
Yeah.
Old chap.
Let's get the old chaps out.
Do you know what it was, actually? The referee did think about booking him for it, but he realised that Wissa had just heard that someone had scored against Arsenal.
Right.
So it's actually fine.
It's
It's fine.
Good stuff.
Yeah, even though it was
Jim, I'm having a good time.
even though it was on a different day.
It's my show as well.
In the same game, though, Romain Esse, who's obviously recently signed from Millwall to Palace, scored to make it 2-1, scoring his first goal in the Premier League, sprints off to the corner, knee slide celebration.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think
he was
thought
into it.
That it counted as double. But yeah, look, it's great to see, 19 scoring on his debut in the Premier League. Like, must be loving it, and I get that. And yes, do celebrate, but I think there was a couple of the Palace players went, all right, come on, we got.
They wanted to get back and get the kick-off, didn't they?
We want to get going.
But he could tell he had like two things in his mind, like, this is my first Premier League goal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I probably should be helping the team. But fuck it.
I really felt sorry for him.
Yeah, I think he'll do all right there. He's the type of player they love and are well acquainted with down at Palace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of place that, Palace probably have to go after. They've done it before. Eze came from QPR. They've had that. It's a well-trodden path, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
But having said that, I can see why you would be a little bit annoyed because he scores in the 85th minute. Yeah. They're at home. There's a chance to go and do something. Having said that, does it really make any difference? Does the referee really not add stuff on? They add 30 seconds on per goal anyway, apparently. So,
oh well.
Yeah.
Let him have his moment, everybody.
Absolutely.
And they did.